I feel it's very important that we dispel the notion that opera is a museum art form. We are very much a part of the contemporary conversations about what's going on in our world.
Opera and song like this is accessible. It's about real people. We're telling real stories.
People are just going to be excited by the fact that there is a production, a show around the very topic of women's suffrage.
We looked at the Exploration series as a way to broaden and deepen our current audience by giving them exposure and engagement with musical literature and topics that we would not normally put on the big main stage at the Kaufman Center.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Sandler. I'm General Director of Lyric Opera of Kansas City, and I have a question for you. Please raise your hand if you have never been here before. Wow. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you.
I mean, we have stories about women in opera, and while they're all very strong women, they often meet their demise. And I think that we can celebrate new stories of women with what they've achieved and what they're trying to achieve.
So it was hard to notice that we would be celebrating the centennial of the commemoration of the 19th Amendment.
Why do they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud?
It was a perfect opportunity to create a program around it.
Well, everyone knows the name Susan B. Anthony, and some people know the name Elizabeth Cady Stanton, but Susan B. Anthony was really the one who was on the platforms rallying people. She was the public face of the movement. But Elizabeth Cady Stanton was really the strategist, the thinker, the writer behind the movement. The reason she wasn't on the front lines is because she was home with 7 children.
Joint resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution extending the right of suffrage to women.
When we began, and still we dream, and still we dream, our revolution takes more than a day or a century.
In addition to looking at the texts written by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, I looked at a lot of material from the time. And it was quite contentious, this whole idea of women's suffrage. And it was amazing just sifting through the rhetoric, pro and con, how familiar it all felt. And I love that these two women who had very different paths show us two different faces of feminism. And really what that battle was about was not women against men, but it was about women having as many choices and as much agency as men.
Oh, Mrs. Stanton, don't say no. Oh, Mrs. Stanton, don't say no. Oh, no, no, even with all the time in the world, I can get off on a decent speech. Whenever I take a pen in hand, I seem to be mounted on stilts.
I got on, the National Archives websites and all of those, and I started reading about these women and just what forces of nature they were and how different they were, but how they had this really profound friendship between each other, and they were trying to get to the same end goal, even though in a lot of ways they had different philosophies on how to get there.
So we're 100 years since we got the vote, and where are we? This is a woman who's completely conflicted between loving her family and being, tethered to home. Yeah. But she does love her family, but she wants to be out, but she wants to be home, which is a common thing that many of us who are mothers deal with. Well, we've made a tremendous amount of progress, obviously. We can do things, I can do things that my mother and certainly my grandmother never imagined they could do. The world is an utterly changed place. But
between about 2012 and 2014, I started noticing that I was fielding a lot of questions from young women in the field who would say to me, how do you get a job like yours? I mean, I just feel like I'm not part of the conversation.
I find, it seems, in a lot of larger companies that that women can be totally depended on to do a certain level of work. Let's see if the light does it for us. Great. Okay, grand. All right, any questions about that little section? Can I actually see your positions for the 19th Amendment? So it's quartet here and these yahoos here. But driving a large-scale creative production is still a plum that is not always given to ladies. I think that there's a lot of appreciation for the workhorse nature of women. Women will get it done. But there's still a place that we hold for creative genius that seems like it's still viewed as a very masculine area.
Strings at Sam, the Ellie, you have God, you've got an open D. Yeah, I think that kind of,
it just seemed like a little metal thing.
Yeah. I sort of, laugh and smirk a little bit at myself because I look back and no, I wasn't conscious and I wasn't aware. I did not perceive any barriers to, pursuing conducting. And it's really only with the benefit of hindsight that I've turned around and looked and sort of realized that, for example, in my class of conductors at the Aspen Music Festival in school, I was one of 2 women out of a class of 17. And I look back at my my master's and my doctoral studies in Sydney at the Conservatorium, and for a great proportion of the time, I was the only female.
To the editor, 90% of the women of Ohio do not want the ballot. Wake up and save us from those who would force it on us. We represent the modest, home-loving, law-abiding women.
Pretty ladies, you surprise me.
We wanted to make sure that we showed the truth of the movement, which was that there were women who were strongly against women's suffrage, and there were men who were allies.
Is it really so immodest to appear on a platter, speaking words of sorrow?
If we want to live up to the vision of those who created this country, this idea of liberty and justice for all, it's all of our jobs. And in every movement for progress in this country, and in fact in the world, when you're talking about an oppressed class getting their rights, they usually don't get their rights just due to their own activism. It really takes allies from across the aisle, as it were, or from the privileged class.
So I always look to champion composers, librettists, all kinds of creative people like conductors and directors who are women, to give them an opportunity and a platform.
It was really awesome to be in a room of all women, especially in the nature that I came into it. There was just a lot of collaboration, a lot of understanding, and just strength.
Super clear. Yep.
And you know, why don't we do this? Why don't you start at forte, just really hit that, and then come down to a subito piano for the piano 2 at bar 3.
I think that more and more women are coming at the forefront and working in the arts and being recognized for the incredible contributions that they're making and have been making for hundreds of years.
A woman's proper work is the full development of her faculties, of heart, mind, and body. What this work?
You know, my mother played a lot of jazz, and so I started listening to it. Apparently, according to her, she decided that I would become a composer when she was pregnant with me. So for me, there wasn't like some discovery thing. It was just this thing that I had always heard. And then I remember going to the piano at about 6 or 7 and starting to play around with some stuff. So I don't ever remember wanting to do anything else.
So the open mouth, I'm wondering if there's something, even with the score, that you can do to indicate housework. If you have a crochet.
I think that my life as a kind of a media composer makes me very qualified to work as an opera composer, because I spend my time thinking about drama and thinking how music can support drama. Even if I feel something works for me, if it doesn't work for other people in terms of staging or in terms of what they want out of their film or television show, I need to listen and look back and see if there's another way we can do it. I love that about it. To me, that's one of the things that keeps it really fresh and exciting.
I had this kind of long instrumental opening with this sense of activity. So, I mean, we can either cut that back, or I think she could do something if you're comfortable with it, if she's comfortable with it.
I mean, I'm open to any suggestions, but I just, again, from my perspective, it seems a little odd to try to engage in an activity and then go back to reading a score.
I actually began my artistic journey as a singer, so I sang all through high school, and both of my degrees are in voice. And it wasn't until the last semester of my master's degree in vocal performance that I got conned into directing a Baroque opera for our early music ensemble, and for me it was a total light bulb moment. I sold everything that I owned and I bought an Airstream trailer, and I moved into the Airstream so that I could live a very economically lean lifestyle and take every crappy job that came my way so I could learn what it was like on the other side of the table.
See that they're standing there equally with the men, I think. It's part of it, and also the ladies behind them. So let's just say, at equality, and when she turns and looks, so we'll learn this in a few seconds, I want y'all to turn and look at her also, and look at her with pride, and we want to do right by you. God, I'm feeling really verklempt about this for some reason. Okay, anyway. It's not really my job to hammer some kind of vision onto these people, but to draw what is most beautiful about their personal skill set, and also the material that we're working with, and to extract. And that requires a bit of psychology and deep interest in other people.
My most important job is to create spaces for the composer to take us on an emotional journey. So I'm thinking not just in terms of one word after another, but structures that invite music and that invite varied music. When I'm putting words in a character's mouth on stage, whether it's a fictional character or my reimagining of a historical character, it's about getting in someone's skin, and people are complicated. And the people that we admire, there are also less than perfect things about them. The people we revile, there is also probably something to admire about them. So I think anytime you are creating a character with words and music, hopefully you're getting in touch with a little bit more of how complicated it is to be a human.
But I cannot search books or look up statistics. That work requires my hands. My whole soul is in a work, but my hands belong to my family.
When thinking, what do I choose? What's going to be the basis of this half an hour song cycle? There were a couple of things that I kept in mind. One was we're setting this as a tour de force for one singer. And we did not want the singer to have to introduce who she is whenever she changes back and forth.
To try to capture both of their personas, when I was reading about the two of them, Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a mother of 7 children. And although she was only 5 years older than Susan, I feel did kind of take on a motherly persona toward her. And so I tried to take on a very calming tonality and a calming color, because often she was consoling her self-doubt and explaining to Susan her role in this whole quest that they were on.
Come here, Susan. I will do what I can, Susan, to help you with your address.
And Susan, she was kind of plagued by some self-doubt, and she was a little bit more frenetic and a little more excitable. I mean, she was the one that was going out and speaking in public and was kind of the voice behind all of it. So her music, Laura composed, was a little bit higher, a little bit more florid. It had a lot more movement in it. And I just tried to take on almost a younger color, a younger tonality in some of it.
Oh, Mrs. Stanton, how can you, with all your gifts, give yourself to making babies, leaving poor, friendless me? Mrs. Stanton, come here, Susan.
Well, my mom would always say I was born loud, but really it's a long time of training. Opera singers, we train to kind of utilize every part of our resonance chambers in our face, and there's all kinds of crazy opera speak how we aim to project to the back of the house and even beyond of wherever we're singing. The actual vocal mechanism, like the larynx, we kind of leave that out of the picture. That just happens, and it's so much a combination of relying on your breath support and using all of your abdominal and intercostal muscles to really put the power behind the voice in your breath, and then opening all of this space up in your face and in your head. One of the big reasons we do art is to escape or give ourselves permission to see or hear something or understand something that we wouldn't otherwise have the ability to do. Also, just to experience beauty. That's one of the main reasons why I do what I do, because I think we're in a world that needs all the beauty that it can get.
was as a result of my work as a violinist and working with young musicians in Sydney, Australia, that actually kind of piqued my interest, as it were, in conducting. And I thought, oh, this is something that I am finding myself doing more and more often.
I thought I was on, and then I thought I heard my computer say something, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm off, and so then I I messed it up.
No, I think if you just do your thing, the job, I think, of a conductor and certainly a really effective leader is to be able to bring everybody together and work towards a common goal. And often, in a production setting like this, you have a very short amount of time to do that, just a week or even less, actually, for some guest conducting engagements.
So one of the things that we see in the journey of these two women, they devoted half a century to this battle, and women's suffrage did not happen during their lifetime. There's a beautiful letter that Susan B. Anthony wrote to Elizabeth Cady Stanton near the end of their lives. And she talks about, she says, we little dreamed when we began that we'd be passing the torch and that we wouldn't quite see it in our lifetimes, but look at all the progress that we have seen.
The biggest thing I want them to understand is how important female friendship is, and how important it is that these women were trying to do something so major, and yet they were there to support each other. And I think that, for me, is something I really, really value.
For me, in doing my homework for this piece, it was just so inspiring to read about these women that had such a passion for what they knew was right. It's very easy to sit back and enjoy the benefits that we have and think that they're good enough, but changes are made by the bold, and so I hope that these women, these stories will inspire other people. They're certainly inspiring me.
I think that it was really special to work with almost all women team and tell these awesome stories of these women and other women who have fought for equality and recognition as humans.
I started noticing that I was fielding a lot of questions from young women in the field who would say to me, how do you get a job like yours? I mean, I just feel like I'm not part of the conversation. So we created the Women's Opera Network. I named it WON, W-O-N. We have started a mentorship program. We have a Facebook page, so we have a high social media presence. So all of that is really, really ramping up the conversation.
2017, I was selected for a really very groundbreaking and innovative program run by the Dallas Opera, and that's called the Hart Institute for Women Conductors. The genesis of this program was really aimed at offering female conductors, young female conductors, ongoing guidance, mentoring, and professional development with respect to building a career at the highest level professionally.
There have been a lot of us out there kicking open some doors that have been pretty firmly shut. I started an organization called the Alliance for Women Film Composers, and that's an advocacy organization to try to help women film composers make it in a very male-dominated world in Hollywood. And then I became a governor of the Motion Picture Academy, where I continue that work, that advocacy. And the more we help each other, the further we get.
there has been a fantastically positive outcome. We see women composers all over the place now. We see women conductors all over the place now. We see women directors all over the place now. The numbers, the explosion of female talent that is being shared within our field, if you compare it to 10 years ago, it would be mind-boggling.
So much has happened since Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony were leading the charge for women's suffrage. And yet, there's so much more to come if we are to live up to the principles of this country, the idea of liberty and justice for all.